What's happening, y'all? This is Mike D with Black Fathers Now, where we're bringing the village to the brothers. Every couple of weeks, you can look forward to a quick inspirational message or a thought-provoking guest with knowledge and wisdom, all geared towards helping you be the best father that you can be. We're bringing the village to you. Now it's your turn to do something with what you learned. All right, y'all. Let's go. What's going on, fellas? This is Mike D with Black Fathers Now. Now, dig this. We have an interesting story today from a brother that had a journey that you're going to really want to hear a lot about. We were just sitting down talking about it recently, and he dropped some stuff on me that just blew my mind completely. And I think I'm well read. I think I'm, very understanding of life and all this kind of stuff. He dropped some stuff on me about the Underground Railroad and his experience on the Unity ride that was just amazing. So, it's about to be hot. But first and foremost, welcome. As always, y'all make sure to visit blackfathersnow.com, but also make sure to grab a copy of Dynamic Black Fatherhood Manifesto. We're celebrating the nuances of Black fatherhood. Celebrating the nuances of Black fatherhood, but excellence in Black fatherhood as well. Dynamic Black Fatherhood Manifesto. You can grab it at blackfathersnow.com or on amazon.com. But today's guest, I have my man Doug Mentor. Now, Doug is the Director of Small Business Development for the Knoxville Chamber of Commerce, correct? And he's originally from Oak Ridge, Tennessee. He's a member of Phi Beta Sigma. I mean, we'll give him a pass. I guess you're afforded one mistake in life, right? He's looking at me. It's all good. That's my man. 50 grand. But what was interesting about Doug?
Best mistake of my life.
But what was interesting, Doug went on this thing called the Unity Ride, and the Unity Ride was, in essence, a trip that followed the Underground Railroad from New Orleans all the way to Canada, correct?
Yes.
And so he picked it up in Knoxville, Tennessee, but he traveled, and it was a bike ride, right? And he picked it up in
motorcycle.
Not a motorcycle.
Bicycle.
He rode a bicycle from Knoxville to Canada. That's a bad brother, right? But what was interesting about it, man, he was sharing with me some of the things that he learned on the journey. And, as Black fathers, as brothers who are leading our household and, impacting the lives of our kids, we should always be open to gaining wisdom and insight and information, especially through the journey of others that have kind of gone through things that we can learn from. And I just had to have him come on and talk about this, man, because this stuff was wild. So, Doug, welcome, my brother. I appreciate you.
All right. Appreciate it. And greetings to all the brothers out there. So, here's, not to belabor the trip too much, right? So Jonathan Williams, one of my cool white brothers, and another gentleman, another brother, Andre Block, they rode from California to D.C. Last year.
On a bicycle.
Okay. And it was really to promote unity, right? Because Jonathan's a Republican, Andre's Democrat, but they're best friends. So it was like, hey, we could be friends. Why we need some more unity, right? The whole Trump era has created some divide. So, that was the reason why they rode bikes. And they said, hey, we want to ride bikes again. And we want to go somewhere different. And I said, man, I really love the fact that y'all had conversations with people all across the country as you were riding bicycles, right? And I said, I'd love to do that for health reasons. I needed it in my life. We get stagnant.
That's right.
Got to challenge ourselves with something that's really crazy and see if we can pull it off. And, as an old Marine getting kind of fat, I was like, I need to take care of my health. Let me challenge myself. And I felt like I could do it, And so that's why I did it. But then Jonathan said, hey, we need a theme. Why are we, we don't want to just ride. We want to impact and touch people. And I said, well, why don't you follow the Underground Railroad? Go all the way to Canada. And they go, yeah, we want to start in New Orleans. So they started in New Orleans, went to Free State of Jones, Went to landmarks in Montgomery, Birmingham, Huntsville, Nashville. We followed the Underground Railroad all the way to Canada. And one of the coolest places, Canada was amazing. They really preserved the history there, so it's a lot of stuff there. That's Freedom Land, right? So
that's what we were all going.
Yeah, that's all we were all trying to get to. So of course, there's a lot of monuments and museums and stuff like that. But we stopped in a lot of rural towns in Ripley, Ohio. I have never seen a whole city where every white person knew the history, knew something about the Underground Railroad, and pointed us to the next person that may know more. It was like Navarro world. It was so welcoming and so warm, and I want to go back.
This Ripley, Ohio.
Ripley, Ohio.
I've never heard of Ripley, Ohio.
Exactly. So that's where John Rankin lived.
Okay.
Probably one of the most successful white abolitionists.
Okay.
Saved over 2,200 slaves. But what we don't hear about is his neighbor below him, John Parker. This brother saved hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of slaves, crossing over the Ohio River from Kentucky.
Because wasn't that was the
That's the line.
That was the line.
That's the line.
Yep.
So a lot of times when they talk about the Big Dipper, they were talking about the Ohio River.
Really?
And the North Star, they were talking about a candle that was in John Rankin's house, because he would light that candle to let you know it's okay to come up here.
Wow. And
he was on the top of a big hill. And his house is the only house that you can see at night in Ripley, Ohio. It's on the top of, you can't miss it. So you know if you get there to the star, that you made it.
So, and it's interesting when you talk about that, because
they used to call Ohio Ripley, Ohio. They used to call that whole area Little Africa.
Really?
Because so many black people trying to get.
Really?
Yeah, so many enslaved people trying to get across that river. And once you made it to Ohio, you have a strong Mennonite community. You have a strong Quaker community. There's pathways to get all the way north.
And when you mention the notion of, how the Big Dipper or the North Star, all these examples or all these symbols were utilized, it takes you back to like the Negro spirituals, like the swing low, sweet chariot, how everything had a different meaning.
Everything had a meaning.
But
it was a codex.
It was a codex.
It's an advanced codex to this thing.
Wow. Interesting.
But what was interesting, when we were in New Orleans, the guys would call back, and myself and my girlfriend, we would be looking for interviews and people to talk with the guys, right, and set that up while they're riding.
Okay.
And very few interviews between New Orleans and Birmingham. And the guys were calling, and they were like, "Hey, what's going on? Like, why don't you have any interviews?" I said, "Well, you gotta understand, in the Deep South, the Underground Railroad was completely black.
Wow.
There were no Quakers
in the Deep South.
In the Deep South until well after the Civil War. There were no strong abolitionists in the Deep South prior, before the Civil War. Very few, because that's where slaves were. You gotta keep in mind, only 33,000 slaves made it to freedom, made it to Canada.
33,000.
There were 4 million enslaved people.
Wow.
When Harriet Tubman made that famous quote, she said she thinks she freed a little over 300 slaves, and they were interviewing her, and she said, "Well, I would have freed more if they only knew they were slaves." You got to understand, from 1600 to 1800s, it's 200 years of DNA indoctrination, cultural conditioning, social conditioning. We're still suffering from that today. And so one of the things that I learned, a young white lady who has written a book about the Underground Railroad, and she lives in Ripley. She's continuing to write books, right? She said there were 3 types of people. Yeah, your abolitionists. We've all heard about the abolitionists, right? Frederick Douglass and all of those people who would speak out against slavery. Then you had conductors. Well, that's all I ever learned in school. And I studied this. I did not know about this third term.
Okay.
And she said, well, yeah, there were extractors.
Extractors.
So I said, what's an extractor? She said, well, those were the people that would go and physically go get an enslaved person and make sure they got to freedom. Got to freedom. Not got to the next stop.
But they got the whole
Extractors
the whole way.
Went and made sure they got to freedom. John Parker was an extractor. He would go into Kentucky, which was considered still the Deep South.
Okay.
He would go into Kentucky, Alabama, Tennessee, bring them all the way, make sure they got to John Rankin's house
in Ohio.
In
Ripley, Ohio.
That's heavy duty because an extractor is a black person or a white person, but most of them were generally free blacks who would go and get.
So John Parker was a free black.
John Parker's a free black.
Wow.
Ex-slave.
Wow.
Who got free.
And moved to Ripley.
And
made his life mission.
He also owned a steel foundry.
Wow.
Businesses, employed people.
Wow.
Was one of the richest, lived on Millionaire Road in Ripley.
Wow.
One of the richest men in Ripley.
Wow.
Okay? And so he didn't just give a check. You know, he didn't just write a check or give a little donation and whatnot. He went and physically got slaves out of their condition and brought them to freedom.
You see,
and see, we call Harriet Tubman the Great Conductor. I don't consider her a conductor.
She was an extractor.
She was an extractor. She never lost a single person. And so what's interesting about her quotes is she said, I would have freed more
if they had known.
If they had only known they were slaves. Which meant that's a lot of lamenting. That's a heavy quote. Because she's pissed. Because she had to go get these folk. And she's like, come on, let's go.
And they didn't even know they were slaves.
And
they
maybe
were
3 out of 10 would go.
Wow.
I don't need to leave. I'm okay. Or whatever their excuse was. But she would take them all the way to freedom in Canada. She has a church that's still there now in St. Catharines. She lived in Canada for 8 years plus. Wow. Had a home there. Has a church that's still practicing. They're still in that church now.
Really?
Still worshiping in that church in St. Catharines. Wow. See, we don't hear that stuff.
No, we don't.
And so, as you know, if we really on this bike trip tried to learn all the principles of the Underground Railroad, right? And we try to figure out, well, how do we apply that today?
That's my key. Because, fellas, listen, the title of this podcast is Black Fathers Now, right? So it's all about what can you do right now? What are some of the things that you can take from what you learn and apply them to your lives right now? So Doug mentioned the notion of abolitionists. He mentioned the notion of conductors, but then he also introduced the concept of extractors. One of the things that I wanted to kind of touch back on, it was interesting, you mentioned that John Parker was a free black man who was a former slave, but yet he was also successful and had businesses. But what's interesting there, he was successful, had businesses, had money, had status, but yet he still acted as an extractor. That's interesting because usually when we think about status, when we think about getting to a certain place, we move ourselves up to a certain level and then we just write checks. Very few of us go back and actually serve as extractors. But how powerful would it be for us as brothers who move up the corporate ladder or move up the financial ladder or move up in a particular status in organizations or in communities to still touch the community, still go and grab? And one of the things that makes me think about was Martin Luther King. Because when you think about Martin Luther King didn't come from the hood. He came from what will be considered a privileged family. He came from a scenario in which he didn't have to, but he decided to go and become an extractor, so to speak. I know you can make some loose connections there and all of that, but at the end of the day, these are people who are already successful. They are fine. Harriet Tubman would have been cool to just go live her life, right? She could have gone and lived her life and been this and been that, but she chose to go back and be an extractor. How many of us, as we move up the ladder, go back and serve as extractors within our own communities? Sometimes, honestly, within our own families. It's interesting. Something to think about, fellas.
Absolutely. You know, and so the question came up, who am I? If I got to be one of these three, am I an extractor? Am I a conductor? Am I an abolitionist? Right? And I think many times brothers get into high positions in a company or get some moniker of wealth or position, especially politically, and we tend to get put into the Uncle Tom category because of our closeness, our proximity to the establishment, right? But we need those people. You know, it's just like the spook behind the door. How you going to get the information?
That's right.
Right? And so you can be an abolitionist by just merely making sure, hey, bro, you know this? Hey, do you know this information? I'm constantly feeding statistics to people so that they can go and then have power to do their part, their portion of the mission.
That's right.
Right? Some of us are just conductors.
That's right.
We're hubs. We're air traffic control. Hey, man, get to Doug. Get to Michael, and he'll get you to the next step. Right? And that's important.
That's right.
We need conductors.
Yes.
Conductors are vitally important because you got to get to the next place.
That's right.
Extractors can't take everybody there.
That's right.
Conductors, extractors can drop people off and say, "Hey, get them to the next spot. I gotta go extract another brother off the street."
That's right.
I'm gonna put him in good hands, so that you can take him the rest of the way. Right? And then, you know, the extractors. Oh man, those are the people who don't get a lot of the glory. They gotta fight. They gotta go sit in the hood. They gotta sit in those boardrooms. They gotta sit and take the heat and protect people who can't protect themselves, who need that help up. Right? And that spans the globe. Everything from educating kids in school to going out and serving brothers who were, you know, convicted felons. I got to extract them out of their situation and get them into a gainful job or get them into a business. It could span the globe of, you know, our females that are out here with you know, multiple children and not enough money to get by. I got to get them to the point and get them educated and extract them out of their Section 8 situation and put them into a powerful 8 situation. You know
That's
what
right.
I'm saying?
That's
so
right.
we, you know, we all have a role to play, and I think.
Ooh, that's powerful. We all have a role to play.
We all got a lane, and I think, you know, albeit sometimes I may be an abolitionist, in other circumstances I'm a conductor, and in other circumstances I'm an extractor. But we got to figure out who we are, and I think you got to claim a lane.
That's right.
Or at least understand at this point in time I'm a conductor.
That's right.
At this point in time, I'm an abolitionist. At this point in time, I'm an extractor. And I don't think we're making that choice as black men. You know what I mean? There's a large population of us that aren't making that choice. And if we owe anything to the legacy, we owe to the legacy to make a decision. Because if you're not an extractor, if you're not a conductor, and you're not an abolitionist,
don't
you're
say
the enemy.
There it is. Wow.
You stuck on stupid, doing some ghetto hood stuff, you the enemy, bro.
You're not helping.
You're not helping. You're not helping. What's your position?
Fellas, pick a lane. You know, I posted something on Facebook recently. I watched a video. It was a graduation. I think it was from Harvard or something. But a guy gave a keynote, and the title of it was "Just Pick a Damn Movie," because he was talking about how, you know, we go and we turn on Netflix, and he said sometimes I'll sit there and he'll start searching, and 30 minutes later he's still searching for something to watch on Netflix. But the thing is, once you pick a movie and once you watch it all the way through, it's all right. The issue is not the choices or the options. Just pick a damn movie. And so it's interesting when you talk about pick a lane. Fellas, pick a damn lane. Literally, we have to make a choice. Our families, our communities, our world, everything depends on us picking a lane. We can't sit here and be in limbo and be on search mode 24/7. Pick one. Now, guess what? If it doesn't work, have the balls to pick another one. It's okay. But pick one.
And I think what's interesting is, I know any of us brothers that are in the corporate world, somebody white will always ask you about another black person. Hey, how are they? Or what's up with Susie Q? You've been at, come on, Mike.
Oh,
you know how many times they want
100%.
to come to you to validate another
There
black person.
you go.
They're using you as the filter.
That's right.
Right? What they used to say, well, they're an extractor. Your first description should be to describe that person's lane in the black community. And see what kind of reaction you get. Oh, yes, I know. Yes, I know Valerie. Yeah, she's a conductor.
Wow.
And just pause and see what? Oh, yeah, she's a conductor for our community. You know, like the Underground Railroad. She's a conductor. She's a hub.
She connects.
She connects people in our community. Oh, so-and-so, he's an extractor.
He helps. He grabs them and walks them through the process.
And then so-and-so's an abolitionist.
This one speaks truth to power. This is the one that is the voice of the movement. Wow. Interesting.
You're going to put them in such an interesting world of understanding and education. But you also get to transfer respect to those people. Right?
Because you show you show their value to the whole.
You show their value.
You show their value.
And then what it also does is, you know, if you're having a bad day and that brother, you and that particular brother don't get along too tough, at least you can tell people what his lane is.
That's right.
Without having to dog the brother.
That's right.
I mean, we do so much negative to our own selves in that post-traumatic stress syndrome, slave syndrome that we have, you know, and I think this is a way for us to break through that. Because think about it. We want to talk about post-traumatic slave syndrome. We want to talk about our baggage, our PTSD, whatever. I fought the war, so I get it at a high level. Well, don't you think after 200 years of slavery that the extractors, the conductors, the abolitionists of their time were suffering from PTSD way more than we were?
That's right.
Come on. I'm talking about people that got beat for real, that got lynched for real. We don't have that threat as much. Now albeit larger cities, police violence.
Yeah, we got stuff going on.
We got stuff going on. I'm not trying to minimize or marginalize that at all, but I'm saying 200 years of slavery is a beast. Right? My thing is, they gave us the recipe for the PTSD. Harriet knew the PTSD. She said, I would have freed more if they only knew. We know. We have the benefit of knowledge in this day. This is the knowledge.
This is the knowledge era.
This is the era of knowledge. So we understand, if we know our lane, extractors, abolitionists, conductors, then we're able to fight through that PSD because I'm self-aware.
Self-awareness.
I'm self-aware.
You understand, fellas.
I understand my quality.
Fellas,
right?
Understand who you are. We must take time to really understand your gifts, your talents, your skill set, what you bring to the table, your value proposition, right? We can all tell what's wrong, but what's right, what's good, what's great. Because when you can double down on your gifts, when you can double down on who you are, what you then open yourself up to is having no ceiling. When you're operating within your lane, when you understand that you are a gifted extractor, that's when you become the best at what you do, and there's nothing stopping you. When you understand that you are a gifted abolitionist or you're a gifted conductor, you then have zero ceiling. You then get to impact the community, impact your family, impact the world in a way in which you have zero limits. Fellas, pay attention to that. And yes, we're using the reference from Doug's bike ride, the Unity ride from New Orleans to Canada, following the Underground Railroad, as a canvas or as a window into right now. Look at these things. Sometimes we go back to learn about what's going on right now and think about that. In your life, are you an extractor? Are you an abolitionist, or are you a conductor? When you think about the family, when you think about the community, when you think about your life, when you think about corporate America, when you think about, the country, the world, what are you? Who are you? I can't tell you. You have to figure that out for yourself. You need to look in the mirror and do a deep dive. What do you bring to the table that best positions you to be one of the world's best in this particular segment? Marinate on that. Fella, you got anything else, man?
No, I appreciate the good people in Ripley, Ohio, for really educating me on nuance of the Underground Railroad. Things that you don't read in books, things that aren't really being talked about in our school system. You know, you always heard the abolitionists and the conductors. You know, but it's really interesting, this extractor piece. It's that really changed my viewpoint, because I could never understand. I'm like, okay, I got John Rankin out here saved 2,200 slaves. This one, you know, the real Uncle Tom, Josiah Henson, hell, he saves 300-400 slaves himself. But he was an extractor and friends with Harriet. We don't hear about him. You know, we don't hear his name. We don't hear the extractors. You know, and I understand Harriet being a female and doing what she did was even. We don't understand 300 versus 2,200 people. But what she was doing was so hard and so difficult. That's why the federal government asked her to be a Union spy. Because she could go in the woods, she could go and infiltrate. She had her skill set down pat. Right? She could go not be seen and show up with the information. So that's the interesting thing. And the extractors, the good extractors, most of them were black because they could infiltrate. Even their own people to get.
Stop right
you
there.
Understand what I'm saying?
Hold on, fellas. I want you to. Did you hear what he just said? The great extractors were black. Think about our community right now. Think about, you know, we need help and we need to build, we need to grow infrastructure and all these different things that are happening within our community. And a lot of times we look out for solutions. What did Doug just say? The great extractors were black. The great extractors were very similar to those that they were extracting. When we look out for solutions, we're looking in the wrong place. We need to look in.
Yeah, and I think it's helpful to, I think it's a simple deal. And I'm sure there's holes in it. But for me, it's complete. You know, especially when white people ask us, what can I do to help? What can I do? I said, you need to be a great abolitionist. You need to be a great conductor. You need to fund the extractors. So, like Unique Academy, Reggie, right?
We're speaking about Reggie Jenkins in Knoxville, Tennessee, who has the Unique Academy. It's a rites of passage program for young men and women in the Knoxville area. Pretty awesome program. But I have his info in the show notes. Go ahead, continue.
Okay. So I view a brother like Reggie as an extractor, right? He's not really an abolitionist. He's not really a conductor. He may do those things as a part of what he does, but his skill set is being an extractor. It's going into the community, grabbing those young men and young women and training them up. That's extraction. He's going into those homes. He's dealing with those parents. He said, give me your kid. Sign them up right now. Put them in my program so I can get them where they need to go. That's extraction. Only we can do that. We can do that better than anyone else.
With our own kids.
With our own kids. We can be we are the best extractors.
Wow. Hear that, fellas.
You understand that starts with us. There's nobody that can give that better than us.
That's real.
You know?
That's real.
And it's not to say it's not good for other people, other races, other ethnic groups to come in our community and help. But to me, I would rather them be conductors. I would rather them be abolitionists. Because how can we be a great community unless the men are the extractors and the women are the extractors? Like, we're saving ourselves. You understand? So if you think about, and see, so going back to what made the Underground Railroad so popular, it's Lucy and Thornton Blackburn. Mm-hmm. You know about them? Mm-mm. So Lucy and Thornton Blackburn were slaves from Kentucky, made their way to Detroit. Okay, lived there for 2 years. Slave catcher comes, puts them in jail. Who freed them? Enslaved people, slaves in that area of Detroit, and free blacks. Bust them out. And the enslaved blacks took them to Canada. So we're going to Canada. Y'all come with us. We got you. No one else could do that. You understand? Even the white citizens, no matter how much they cared, they couldn't pull it off. They just it's a situation where the responsibility lies with us. It does. There's certain responsibilities that lie with our own community.
Say that again.
That we have to take responsibility.
We have to.
It's not that they can't help. It's not that they can't get involved. They can stand with us. We want them to. But
we have to fix.
There's certain
ourselves.
Things that only we can do. The Underground Railroad movement, which we hear very little about in the Deep South, was a black movement. We were the ones that said Black Lives Matter to us, and we're going to fix this. We're going to get these people out of here as much as we possibly can. You understand? That starts with us. We can't depend on anybody else to save us. Us. The real extraction starts with us. It starts in our homes. It starts in our churches. It starts in our communities. It starts with us individually and how we treat one another. How can we sit here and I'm calling you a house Negro? I'm calling you a hoe. I'm calling you this. I'm calling you that. I'm calling you everything in the book because you don't do things the way I want to do it. Well, what's your lane? Are you out of your lane? Which one are you? Are you an extractor? Are you an abolitionist? Are you a conductor?
And if not, you're the enemy, right?
If not, you're the enemy. Out of slaves, save more slaves. They just knew that they were slaves. How many people know? We got to be the extractors. I don't care how you look at it. We got to be the extractors.
Fellas, again, the title is Black Fathers Now. Find your lane. Are you a conductor? Are you an abolitionist? Or are you an extractor? And when it comes to the extraction process, when it comes to grabbing the hand and walking the brothers and sisters through the process, we got to do it. There's nobody that can do it like we can do it. Have that confidence. Have that understanding that you are made for this. So Black Fathers Now is the time. Find your lane, get in your lane, and execute. Fellas, we want to thank my man Doug Mentor for spending time. Again, he's the Director of Small Business Development with the Knoxville Chamber of Commerce. Is there any way for people to get in touch with you or find you on social media? Is there any?
Absolutely. Just go to knoxvillechamber.com.
Okay.
And I'm right there. If you need any help, I'm on Facebook, Twitter. Just reach out.
Fellas, you hear that? So literally the Knoxville, and that's Knoxville, Tennessee, Knoxville Chamber of Commerce, you look up Doug Mentor, and when you get in touch with him, let him know you heard about him on Black Fathers Now. And as always, fellas, follow Black Fathers Now on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Visit blackfathersnow.com and IamMikeDorsey.com. Grab a copy of Dynamic Black Fatherhood Manifesto. And this is also brought to you by Black Family Apparel. Black Family Apparel is the online apparel company that celebrates the nuances of the black family. And fellas, literally take action today. I hope you learned something. Let me know what you heard about it. Let me know what you thought about it. And leave us some ratings on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, leave us ratings. Leave us some feedback. We'd love to hear that. And until next time, y'all be blessed, well, and wise. And I'll holler at you. Peace. Yo, fellas, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And always visit blackfathersnow.com, as well as follow Black Fathers Now on virtually every social media platform you can think of. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere. Just follow us and engage with us, man. Look forward to hearing from you. And I guess until next time, I'll holler at you. Peace.